Hey friends, I want to talk about a concept that is pretty fundamental to my empowerment work and also any of the work that I do that involves other people and seeing them. And this is a concept that I was exposed to from my collaborator, Mary Bajorek, that she introduced to me. And I'm sure other people have thought of this as well, but it's just been incredibly valuable to us in our empowerment work in the empowerment department of the Service Guild. And it's the concept of surface area. And to begin with, all of our work in empowerment is about believing that someone has a vow, that they have this calling or mission or life purpose, whatever you want to call it. We call it a vow, but you can call it whatever you want. We believe that everyone has a vow. And then if that's true, it immediately becomes a question of, well, what is this person's vow, this specific individual person's vow? And how do we see that? How do we see that? And so it immediately becomes about seeing people and really understanding who they are, not just in a conceptual way or a verbal way, but also really witnessing them in who they are, how they show up, what their virtues are, what their character is, what their dreams and desires and goals are, what their values are, what direction they're going in. Both seeing them as they see themselves, as they understand themselves, but also ideally seeing what they don't yet see, what they don't fully recognize, and being able to reflect that to them, to be a mirror for them of like, hey, you're really good at this thing. Like, this seems really straightforward and obvious to you, but not everyone's good at this. And just so you know, this is really important. That's the kind of thing that's possible when you can really deeply see someone, is that you can reflect that back to them. And to really see someone, you need this surface area. And so if you imagine geometrically something like a cube has 6 faces. There's 6 different sides to a cube. And if you're looking at it from one perspective, from any perspective, you're going to see a finite number of those sides, right? So if you look at a cube straight on, just straight on right in front of you, you'll only see one side, right? If you look at an angle, you might see 2 or 3 sides. I don't know, I can't do the math right now, but maybe, I'm not sure what the maximum number of sides you can see at one time is, but because we are finite beings in space and time, and we can't see from all vantage points at one moment, you cannot see all sides at once. And so already that implies that metaphorically, if you want to see someone, you have to see them over time. And so if you're just meeting them or just witnessing them in one moment or on one day, you're not going to see all sides of them. You're going to need to see them over time and then see different facets of them, see them in different contexts, see different qualities they have, see the choices that they make. And this is really never ending. Like, people who are married talk a lot about how they're always discovering new things about the people that they're connected to. And actually, I'm reminded of choosing a spiritual teacher. It's like, best practice for choosing a spiritual teacher is not just necessarily just going straight into it, as many of us do, but certainly as I did, but seeing someone over time and witnessing how they live their life, not just what they're saying, but what they're actually doing, and ideally living near them and really watching how they live. And do they walk their talk? And what can you learn from the way that they walk or the way that they act? Walk being a metaphor here, but also literal. The way that they show up, that is often even a greater teaching than the words that they share. Like, some of the things that my teacher, Soryu, taught me are things that I just saw him do, or that I inferred or received from his example, and not even from something he said, even though he said countless things to me over the years that I trained with him. His example showed me things that have been such powerful teachings that I live by. Like, I feel him with me as I live my life, as I live my vow. And of course, on the flip side, that if you see some kind of disharmony or conflict between what they're saying and their actions, if you see that they're a hypocrite or they're acting in unethical ways, then you don't want to work with them as a teacher. But in any case, seeing someone is something that happens over time and sort of accumulates over time, where you have more context on who they are. And importantly, this sides metaphor if you have a conversation with someone, you meet them, say in person even, but also certainly on a Zoom call or a phone call or whatever, it's like, well, that's going to show you one or several sides of them, and that's very good. Conversation, live interaction, preferably in person, is a really high bandwidth way to understand who someone is, to see them. And if you see something they write or something they made or art they created or a poem they wrote or music that they created, those different mediums or artifacts are going to show you different sides of them that a verbal interaction, conversation, even in person, may not show you. That's going to show you just a totally different side. It's like, well, you're looking at the cube front on, but if you rotate it, then you're going to see another side front on. And ideally, you see as many sides as possible of someone over time, and even, quote, all sides of them. I think you're never actually done seeing someone or understanding who they are. But to do that, you need more surface area. And so if you only ever just have conversations with someone, say you have conversations with a writer, for example, and then you never read anything that they write, you're not really going to see them. Like, writing is central to who they are. Or, imagine, I always think about Sylvia with visual art. It's like, could you imagine meeting Sylvia but never seeing her art ever? Which would be hard to do because she has some of it tattooed to her body. But the point being, like, yeah, you're going to get a sense, wow, this is an incredible, virtuous, loving, wise person that I enjoy being around, because she has that effect on most people. But there's a really important way in which you're not seeing her, because her art is so, it's so good. It's exquisite. She's my favorite artist, and she makes incredible visual art. And if I had to choose, I would choose meeting her over seeing her art. But wow, what a sacrifice. Damn. So the point is to really see someone for who they are and see them from different sides, right? To as many sides as you possibly can. And from there, you get kind of a three-dimensional or multi-dimensional sense of who that person is, what different sides of them are, what different qualities that they have, what different parts of them are, different aspects of their character, different virtues they have, different challenges they have. You're kind of getting this vivid sense of, oh, this is who this person is, and what they care about and what they want and who they are. And that's going to be so much more vivid and so much more complex and nuanced and accurate than just a one-sided view of someone. Like, for example, if you just see who someone is on their own terms in the way that they speak about themselves, you're going to miss so much depth and volume and complexity and nuance and vividness of who they are beyond the words that they use to describe themselves, beyond the frame that they already have about who they are. There's so much more depth than that, right? Like, for example, in this video, right, I'm saying various words which you might be entering your conceptual mind that you are analyzing or processing or receiving, right? You're listening to what I'm saying, but then also I'm making body language or my eyes are conveying something, or my tone of voice, right? Or the way I look, or, maybe you're seeing things about me I don't see about myself at all. This is incredibly common, almost guaranteed, right? Guaranteed that we cannot see ourselves, right? That's why we need mirrors. That's why we need friends and mentors and allies to reflect, oh, you do not see yourself fully, right? In the same way that you can't necessarily see your backside or your shadow with full clarity, both literally and metaphorically, other people are able to see things about us that we have not yet seen, that we have not witnessed, that can come into view once they reflect those things to us, once they mirror them to us, once they show us those things through seeing them and reflecting them and giving them to us as a gift. A reflection is such a powerful gift, such a service to someone. But that requires going beyond how someone already sees themselves, the way that they see themselves. And of course, in polarity with that, in tension with that, you do really want to strive to understand someone as they understand themselves. Really try to witness them in their own experience of who they are and how they relate to their world, to balance what they say about themselves and how they see themselves, and really understanding that on its own terms with honoring your own insights and perceptions and feelings and intuitions about who that person is. And importantly, the more you do this, the more you really try to see people, the more often you do it, the more different kind of people you're exposed to, the more different cultures you're exposed to. There's just such variety of humans. the better you get at this and you start to notice trends and commonalities or patterns, or people will remind you of other people, or certain situations will remind you of previous situations you've been in. So you get better and better and better at seeing people, and there's an art to it and a skill to it. And thankfully, a lot of parts of my work really helped me to get better at this. And this is one of the most common motivations for me actually with my work, is I just want to understand people and get better at seeing people. And of course, my empowerment work has been such an important way that I do that. And Mary in particular has been so valuable to me in our collaborative relationship for learning to see people better. And how to put it, there are other venues that I do that, like my podcast, for example. I've had, I don't know, something like 130 people on my podcast at this point, or just live conversations that I have with people, my hosts, my friends, my collaborators, or people I meet on the street or at parties or whatever. Every interaction is a chance to see people more deeply and to understand people more deeply, not only as an individual, but who we are collectively as a species and what kinds of people there are. And also my art is another way of doing this, like novels in particular. Writing a vivid, compelling novel requires really seeing people and not having a one-dimensional view of who someone is. It's so easy for a character to become one-dimensional, and they even use this phrase, but to have complexity of being and see different sides of the character and understand who they are really on their own terms, beyond your own conception of them. It takes on this vividness of, this is who this character is on their own terms, who they want to be, what they care about. Has an alarming independence from your own concepts of who they are. I really experience it subjectively, phenomenologically, as like witnessing this person in another world taking an action that has not much to do with what I want for them or what I think should happen, and to be faithfully reporting that. And a lot of the inspiration for that, I know, that's my subjective experience, but a lot of my inspiration for that is how many different kinds of people I've been exposed to and had conversations with and interacted with, and how vastly different people are. So vastly different. There are people that I have met that are so mysterious to me because they see the world so differently, and the life experiences that they've had have been so different from mine, and their phenomenology in this moment even is just very different from mine. And it takes work and effort and patience and kindness and grace to really come to understand someone on their own terms, what it's like to be that person, and to witness them in that, to really receive them in their being and meet them there as who they are. And there's just such skill and artistry in this, and also incompetence. Honestly, I have cared about this and gotten good at it because at points in my life I have been painfully incompetent at this, and I am not a natural at this. I have put in work for 6, 7 or more years, depending on how you count, on just trying to develop a basic level of competence at this. And every so often, every few years, I meet someone. It's happened twice in the last 2 years, I would say, but certainly, yeah, it happens often that I meet someone, I'm like, wow, you are so different from me and so different from anyone I've met before, that I'm having such difficulty understanding who you are and making sense of your world and what it's like to be you. And okay, that makes me want to roll up my sleeves and just spend a lot of time getting to know that person and understanding them on their own terms, and really witnessing them as they see themselves. And as I say, meeting them there, bringing the fullness of my being to that interaction, and not compromising who I am or what I stand for or what my values are, my self-knowledge. Anyway, I've gotten very in the weeds. This whole larger video is about surface area, the metaphor of, say a cube or a sphere or a pyramid that has multiple dimensions, multiple sides that need to be witnessed at different angles, and how that applies to the act of seeing people and reflecting who they are in service of helping them with their vow, or just connecting to them, understanding who they are. This metaphor has been so valuable to me, and really an important part of the shared language of the empowerment department in particular. But as you can see, it extends to my podcast and learning about people and just friendships and relationships generally, of really trying to see people and understand them as they are. And that requires multiple angles, multiple perspectives, a lot of surface area. So I hope that this metaphor is useful to you. I hope that the way and frame that I'm speaking about it is interesting to you. I'd love to hear about your thoughts about seeing people and what works for you in the comments. In the meantime, wishing you well. Hope you are happy and loved and flourishing wherever you are.